Mike Beck thinks his Parkinson's disease is linked to a visit he made to a hostile country. One of the first signs came at the keyboard. Mike Beck, a National Security Agency counterintelligence officer, could always bang out 60 words a minute. But in early 2006, Beck struggled to move his fingers at their usual typing speed. He had to hunt and peck. Soon after, a brain scan showed why Beck had Parkinson's disease, the second most common neurodegenerative disorder in the United States, behind Alzheimer's. He was only 46, unusually young for Parkinson's. No one in his family had ever had it. Then, in an unsettling coincidence, he learned that an NSA colleague, a man had spent a pivotal week in 1996 within a hostile country, had also just been diagnosed with Parkinson's. Eventually, Beck read a classified intelligence that convinced him that he and his coworker were likely the victims of a covert attack on the trip that led to their illnesses and have led to a highly unusual workers' compensation claim. Beck believes that while he and his colleague were sleeping in their hotel rooms, the hostile country, which he cannot name for security reasons, deployed a high-powered microwave weapon against them, damaging their nervous systems. "I was sick in the stomach and shocked when I read that," said Beck, who now struggles to drive, fold the laundry, clean the dishes, or get deep sleep. "I am familiar with other things this hostile country does, and it just felt raw and unfair." For the last 4 years, Beck, 57, has been trying to persuade the Labor Department to award him 75% of his salary, or about $110,000 a year. But the Labor Department want to prove Beck's request without solid evidence that he was targeted. In Beck's case, short of obtaining proof from the hostile nation's spy service head, need the endorsement of the NSA, which has refused to provide it. Glenn Gerstel, the NSA's general counsel, said the agency has not found any proof that Beck or his coworker were attacked. Absent evidence, the NSA can't tell the Labor Department whether it agrees or disagrees with Beck's claim, he said. "We have tremendous sympathy for him, and we'd like to try and help him. But we can't manufacture evidence," Gerstel said. "If the Department of Labor asked us, 'Do you think this is a possibility?' then that would be different. But they didn't ask that." A Labor Department spokesperson said the agency does not comment on active cases. "This is not your average workers' compensation claim case, like someone falling while they were working on the roof of a government building," said Mark Zabe, Beck's attorney, who has represented spy agency employees for decades. "How often is it that a foreign government attacks a federal employee with devastating microwaves? Working overseas can be dangerous for U.S. intelligence and diplomatic personnel." The State Department said in September that it was pulling most of its staffers back from Cuba, after revelations about a series of mysterious attacks that injured 24 Americans stationed in the country. The Americans complained about numerous symptoms, including hearing loss, dizziness, headaches, even cognitive issues. Cuba has denied responsibility. The ordeal has led to speculation that the Americans were victims of a sonic or acoustic attack. Beck, a former Secret Service officer who joined the NSA in 1987, was accustomed to working in hostile terrain. He made sure that U.S. facilities around the world could protect intelligence in physical spaces known as Sensitive Compartmented Information Facilities, or SCIFs. In 1996, Beck and his colleague Charles W. Gubitt were sent to a foreign nation to assess an American facility's safeguards for classified information. He can't say exactly where, not even which hemisphere. The NSA's presence in the country is secret, the agency told the Labor Department. When they arrived, Beck said, a soldier detained them in a small conference room at the airport but didn't explain why, and then released them after about 2 hours. Beck said he and Gubitt didn't identify themselves as NSA employees. Afterward, Beck said their translator intimated that the host country had been observing them. The two men stayed for about a week in side-by-side hotel rooms. Beck can't divulge much about what they did, he said, but we found something very important to the focus of our mission, something threatening near the building. A decade later, the right side of Beck's body began to deaden. His right arm didn't swing normally while he walked. His right hand stiffened, so he typed with his left. Then his right leg started to drag. He felt like he was always about to slip on his office's polished stone floors. At the time, Beck, his wife, Rita, and 2 children were living outside London, while he worked at the NSA's British counterpart, the Government Communications Headquarters. The brain scan revealing young onset Parkinson's was a shock. Only 10 to 20% of those diagnosed with the illness are younger than 50. Beck was put on standard Parkinson's medication, called dopamine agonists, that helped restore his body movement. As his 3-year tour in Britain wrapped up, he was offered a 4th year, and accepted. Beck was well regarded. Had received a personal note of thanks from MFI director Robert S. Mueller III for helping catch Brian P. Regan, a retired Air Force Master Sergeant who tried to hawk classified material to China, Libya and Iraq for $13 million. But even as the medication reduced many of his symptoms, Beck learned that Goobeat, his travel partner, had also been diagnosed with Parkinson's. He thought back to their trip in 1996 and wondered whether their ailments shared a link. Then, in 2012, Beck and others were emailed the intelligence that convinced him there was a link. Over lunch, he shared his suspicions with Goobeat, who by then was retired and no longer held a security clearance. So Beck couldn't tell him much about the intelligence. Goobeat, who lived in Laurel, Maryland, died a year later, though the cause remains unknown. He was 61. Parkinson's ran in Goobeat's family. His mother and great-grandmother had it, according to Goobeat's sister, Carol Owens, who lives in Pennsylvania. Beck's doctor, Paul Fishman, a professor of neurology at the University of Maryland,